Welcome back to Project Geekology, the show where we can't hear if you scream, basically. If you're screaming on the other side of this, I genuinely, literally cannot hear you. Similar to how the poster for this movie that we're going to be covering today is, in space, nobody can hear you scream. I was actually listening to the audiobook, novelization of Alien 1979 at work this week, and I kept thinking, at work, no one can hear if I scream. But that's not actually true. There are other people there. And if I did scream while I was listening to that audiobook, it would have been a bad time. It would have been very confusing for others. But anyway, all that preamble out of the way. My name is Dakota. I am joined as always with
Anthony.
And
joining us as always is
Rich.
Welcome back. We last week it was just Rich and I. We covered The Last of Us Season 1 and the first video game. We kind of did a little bit of a, comparison and a contrast. So, now we got you back here to talk about the tall blue people.
The tall blue people.
Or am I talking about the wrong Sigourney Weaver movie?
I mean, there are aliens in that one, and yes. Sigourney Weaver is in it. So
technically I am right. It is Alien, but...
And James Cameron has touched this franchise. So... we're talking Avatar, people, not Alien. We've switched it up on Rich. He hasn't seen Avatar either. No, we're talking Alien. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Alien because this is a movie series that was, I don't know if it was big in my household growing up, but it was one of those like series that's like revered series. The original quadrilogy, but really the first two are the ones that were at least regularly spoken about, or we used like lines from the movies in our dialogue. Like I can remember, "It's game over, man," which is from the second movie. Rich has no idea what I'm talking about, but we will get there because, friends, we have a very special plan for the next couple of weeks. Actually, it's a little more than a couple of weeks. We're going to be covering each of the Alien movies and the TV series that's currently airing in the order that they came out. So Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and so on. Resurrection, Prometheus, Covenant, Romulus, and then Alien Earth. So we're not doing the AVP movies as they are not canon. Only really the first one is any good, I think. But anyway, before we jump into our discussion of Alien, I want to hear a little bit about how it went for you guys last week. You said that you had that not a mini-sode, you had a full podcast, compare and contrast of the Last of Us, the first season versus the first game. How did that go without me? I haven't listened to the episode yet.
I think it went pretty good. I mean, I've had a couple episodes that were full episodes that I did without you with some other friends. So, it's been a while now. Like, we've been back at it regularly. How did it feel, Rich, without Dakota there? I mean, you kind of came into the fold via Dakota, and then your first, duo episode was with me and not Dakota.
I had a great time. I mean, obviously, Dak, we missed you. But I had been doing, I think I mentioned earlier, but I used to do a podcast with a buddy of mine about wrestling. So I think actually with you guys was one of the first times that I consistently did a 3-person podcast. I found, I kind of fell back into the old habits of the 2 and 2. And I will say, I proudly think that I managed to not really mention the second game or season, which is, as listeners know here, I do have to share, there are sanctions placed upon me by my podcasted brethren here, where I normally they'll say, hey, watch this, and then I watch all of it. But I've been told for the next couple of weeks, I have to control myself and only watch one thing at a time. So I think that it'll be nice for the next couple of weeks that nobody will be like, hey, why is this guy talking about the next one again? Because I'll actually be focused on what we watch. I'll just watch them like 5 times.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, like when we talked about The Last of Us, we just said that, that there's stuff that was set up for like the next game or like the next season or two. But yeah, no, we pretty much kept it straight in the first game in the first season. So yeah, man, not bad. But yes, we have put sanctions and embargoes on Rich.
We're just paying tariffs on it for every mistake. So guys, what have you been up to this past week? Anthony, we'll start with you.
Well, yeah, man. While you were gone, we just like we spoke, we made the episode. If you guys are fans of the Last of Us, go and give that a listen. Yeah, man. Like I've been playing Overwatch again. They got the new season just dropped. So happy. We got the beautiful Persona 5 collaboration that's coming out. I had to let Dakota know that. I actually mentioned that in the last podcast. I was like, I had to mess with Dakota on that. But yeah, no, I said, and then we also said that one of these days we're gonna bring you into the fold. Even though I don't know, has Rich played it? Have you played any of the games?
I only know about it because like I searched up the image, like I wrote the thing after there. Yeah, I have no idea.
One of these days, y'all are gonna join the fold. But yeah, no, that, and then just hopping kind of into World of Warcraft. I'm trying to get myself one of those in-game houses that you can get in retail now. I'm trying to get. I've been saving my money, so.
Oh yeah, what is up with that?
Yeah. There's like in-game housing you can get, like, so there's like public like neighborhoods where it's like a solo, like you get your house and then there's like, just kind of randoms. And then you could do private neighborhoods where it's like guilds or like friends can get them together and like have like houses like kind of next to each other. It's pretty cool. I want to like play with some friends so that we can do like a private neighborhood. That'd be awesome.
How's the school zones in your neighborhood?
Non-existent.
Perfect.
Just how Rich, I like them.
Let's throw it over to you. What have you been up to this past week?
Well, let's see. The school is in almost full swing, so we had to go back.
You're starting up, yeah.
So we started Monday. We're recording on Thursday, so I'm the head coach of the cross country track team, which is absurd because I don't like to run for distance. I don't really run unless I'm running to the Mets game because I'm running late. So this is new for me, but I'm having a really good time other than getting up at 8 a.m. and doing that. And
hypothetically, if you were in the Nostromo, would you be running from the alien?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, that's different. Like I'm actually going to get knee surgery in the next couple of months, and my doctor essentially said to me, "Hey, well, I got to get both. I got to get both my ACLs reconstructed."
Oh man, that stinks.
So that stinks. But
my mom just had knee surgery like 2 days ago. So
yeah, it's crazy because they did say it's an outpatient procedure. So I'll be like going in and coming home that day, and then I'll just have a couple weeks off. Would not great for a track coach to be hobbled, but this is really what made me get the surgery, guys. And then we'll move on from negative things. I said to myself, if a zombie apocalypse happens right now, is your ACL strong enough to not buckle when you need to get away from some of those fast walkers? And I realized my knee is in no shape to protect my family if there is a zombie apocalypse. So I need to get these. I need to get fixed up like a $6 million man, and then I will be. I don't know if that reference is too old for everybody, but I'll be good to go.
We got it. We're not invalids. We're not mental invalids.
And how did, but I think you had my Debbie Downer week, I don't think can compare to your week.
Yeah, man, we essentially did nothing compared to you.
Yeah, we're bearing the lead. You're the lead here.
I went abroad. I was in Iceland, the land of fire and ice. Maybe you've heard of it. They've filmed some stuff there. Batman Begins, Game of Thrones, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and the list goes on. Sorry, I was just trying to figure out like a couple of things that were just like were actually filmed in Iceland, but like completely separate. Yeah, it's a beautiful country. It's it's a place I've been before. I went in 2019, so this was me going back. And
dude, you've gone like so many times. I feel like you've gone at least like 5 times in your life
to Iceland. No, this is
because I remember you went when you were younger. I feel like you went like maybe several years later, and then maybe like 2019, and I feel like I've
gone to Europe a couple times.
But I remember you going to Iceland like a few times. I do remember 2019. You've gone, I mean, how many times would you say? Like, it's definitely been at least 3 times.
I promise you, I've only been to Iceland twice. Like it's a trip that I would not forget.
Dude, I feel like you went when you were younger.
You know what happened?
Unless-
Do you remember? You don't remember this era of his life, Anthony? This is when he was given the red kryptonite.
Oh, okay.
So he can't remember.
So
he
can't
flew
remember,
there.
yeah.
You guys are gaslighting me into like vacations I never took, and now I'm depressed because I don't got those memories.
Did you go to the lava
You
show?
just forgot him.
I did not do the lava show. I thought about it, and I kind of wanted to. It did look kind of cool. I knew it wasn't like real lava. Like it wasn't like lava like from a volcano. It's like just heated rock. So I was just like, I will skip it for now. But I did do the Blue Lagoon. We saw a lot of waterfalls. We did like an iceberg boat tour where
Nice.
like we saw like the big glacier, and it like as it slowly melts, basically, it breaks up into huge icebergs that eventually like melt down into pocket-sized little handheld ice cubes, or not. Well, they can be handheld, yeah, but like some of them are, like man-sized. Some of them are like just torso-sized. We ended up grabbing, like me and my family, we found a really perfect piece of ice that had a little like crevice in the center. So we took like Icelandic vodka and we were taking shots off of it. We were like holding the ice up to our mouth. So
that's
like
crazy.
ancient ice, potentially thousands of years old, distilling our
You
that was cool.
You
really,
were chasing your alcohol with ancient water.
I drove onto the glacier and we got like a bottle of water when I was there. But this,
Okay.
you just trumped me there. Like, I mean, you're like, I'm using it to cool the vodka. I'm like, man, that's a better trip than mine.
To be fair, and it wasn't actually like just we weren't using it to cool the vodka. Like it was like a perfect little channel. So we were pouring shots onto the ice and just like bringing it
ice
into our
luge.
mouths. It was an ice luge.
Yeah.
And it was everyone had a good time except for me with that, because I ended up getting a lot of like sand in my mouth because this is these are ice chunks that wash up on the beach. So,
Oh my
But that's-
gosh, that sounds
Yeah.
terrible.
yeah. So I was gagging. I was like,
Dude, why do I feel like it only happens to you?
I
Like
know,
everybody
I
else
know.
just gets it clear and free, but you're like the one that gets the mouthful of. I feel like stuff like that happens to me a lot too. Like whenever I was with you and your family doing anything, like everybody's always having a good time, having some, and I'm like the one that's just getting just the ridiculous things happening to me.
yeah.
But yeah, that did everybody go?
It was just me, Jen, and my parents and my aunt and her husband.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool, man.
So we're seeing Fernando over there. Yeah, it was a good time. We spent a lot of time in Reykjavik. Such a beautiful city. Awesome people. Like it's just so fun staying out late in a city like that because it literally doesn't sleep. It's the weirdest thing. Like you see you're like walking the streets during the day and it's really cool. Lots of cool shops. Obviously it's touristy, but it's touristy with like a really cool vibe because you don't get touristy like that anywhere else in the world. But as soon as it's like after like 11 p.m., the streets are somehow even more busy, but they're not tourists anymore. It's just like the actual Iceland people. And they're the nicest people to hang out with. It's a really, really fun place.
That's
So-
cool. That's cool, man. I have yet to
I
go.
highly recommend it.
I have yet to go. It is on my list along with New Zealand.
It's expensive.
Yes.
That's the one thing that I want to caution people listening. It is such an awesome trip. I cannot wait to go back. I do think it's like one of the coolest places I've ever been, just because of the extremes, like the extreme jagged rocks, the low valleys, the black sand on the beach, the fact that there's glaciers, icebergs, volcanoes that are regularly erupting. It's the most extreme environment that I've ever been to or ever heard of, but it's expensive. Like I spent way more than I expected to. Like even just like random stuff is just there. Our dollar does not go far at all. It's really it's really bad.
Yeah, they said that
but,
everything gets in. I mean, like basically everything has to be imported. The land is
it's
not
an
very
island.
agrible, right? So everything gets imported, and the prices shoot up. It's a little.
Yeah.
I remember when I was there, one of the things I was trying to go to sleep, so I'd put the Met game on. Obviously, it was like the time difference, right? So it's like 1, 2 in the morning, but when it's 1, 2 in the morning and it's dark outside and you're watching the Met game, you're like, okay, stop being a degenerate and go to sleep. But when it's light outside, you're like, well, this is allowed? Like, because I was, like my body couldn't shut down because it wasn't dark.
Oh, what time of year did you go?
I went in August. August
Okay,
of last
so
year.
yeah. So Anthony, that was another weird thing. Sun sets, at least when I was there, around 9:30 p.m. But because of the arc of like where the sun has to go, it never gets fully dark. Like it doesn't get like true astronomical dark. So you barely see the stars in the sky. And I was fortunate enough that I did catch like a weak aurora borealis.
Oh, nice. We didn't catch that when we were there.
It was hard to see. Like at first we thought, oh, it's just clouds in the sky. But then you like look up at the clouds and they're like, wait, where did the clouds go? And then they're over there. And then they're over there. And it's just like, that's not how clouds work. We're looking at the aurora borealis, but it was so light out that we couldn't see the true colors flashing, basically. Like it needs to be really dark for that. But we got like, I have like pictures that, on the phone, it picks up the colors a little bit better because it takes a longer exposure. But it's green on my phone, but it's like white and wispy to the naked eye. But I don't want to. Cool, I can talk about Iceland forever. I can talk about Iceland forever. But let's jump into Alien. Oh, sorry.
No. Yeah. Let's hop into it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about our experience with Alien. I spoke a little bit about what it was like in my household. Like we had the Alien quadrilogy box set, the DVD box set that came out, I think, in the early 2000s or something. It has the first 4 Alien movies, and I remember watching them a couple times. I think I only saw the 3rd and 4th maybe once in my life. The first 2 I've seen a bunch of times. I think the second one is just a little bit more fun. It's a little bit more of like a classic science fiction movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, the second one is classified as an action movie. The first one is a horror movie.
Yeah, so the series bends genres quite often, and it kind of bounces around. So that's something that should be exciting for you, Rich, because I think in the past you've mentioned that you're not big into horror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually I'm glad to hear you say that because I've agreed to embark on the journey no matter what. But I'm not really a horror guy, so as I started to watch this, I was like, because you're building and building, right? So you're an hour in, and you're like, what? Like there's no. I want to say it's like an hour, 45 minutes before you really get what the threat is going to be.
Yeah, it's a slow burn.
My just kind of like stay on that topic of like your first experience. I never saw any of the movies before I watched this one. I know of them, right? I've seen like clips of stuff. I've seen like I had seen like the alien like drooling over somebody type stuff. I think I may have seen like scenes of part 2 or of Aliens, but not the first one. And I think my first exposure was actually, this is a throwback, Mad Magazine. I loved Mad Magazine. And I think one of the first issues I bought was like an Alien parody. So I learned about Alien through that. And then my second exposure was Spaceballs.
Oh, naturally, yeah. Right?
Because at the end of Spaceballs, so like...
There's the chestburster scene, yeah.
I assume that most people go into this movie maybe not knowing that scene, right? So I was like, oh no, I know what's gonna happen. I saw Spaceballs. I'm like, don't get near him. So those were like actually my only interaction. I mean, I knew Sigourney Weaver was in it, right? Like that much, and I did expect it to be more action. I was kind of surprised. So like that's what happened. Like 48 minutes in, whatever, I'm going, hey, there's not a lot of action here. This is a horror movie. I'm like, this is a slow introduction of the villain, or of the monster.
And even like the first 5 minutes is just shots of like within the ship and nobody's woken up yet. And it's just it's Ridley Scott literally aura farming as he turns on the lights in the ship. It's just like, yeah, this is a cool shot. Film it. Yeah, this is a cool shot. Film it. And it's 5 minutes of that. And I gotta give it to him because a lot of the shots are like gorgeous. Like I would never think to show a computer screen from the reflection of an unused helmet or like an unworn helmet. Like that's like one of the first shots we see, and I'm just like, that's cool. Like I would have never thought to do that.
Like I like that you say that because I mean you think that this movie was made in 1979. It came out in 1979. Like what they were able to accomplish, with shots like that and with the effects, just it blows my mind with what they were able to accomplish. Like this was a couple years after Star Wars, and I feel like there were a lot more impressive visuals with this one than like maybe Star Wars, right? But this one it's a different movie, so they're trying to accomplish something else, but they do a really good job at like putting you into outer space and somewhere that's like away from Earth. It's believable.
Yeah. Anthony, what is your first memories of the Alien franchise?
Yeah, I remember seeing it years ago. I mean, I don't remember it being one of those. It wasn't like a household thing for me, but it was definitely one of those movies that my dad grew up with. And so like a lot of these movies that he grew up with, Star Wars, Alien, just Indiana Jones, all that stuff, I watched it. And yeah, I remember watching Alien. I remember it being, I remember like, as a kid, the first one's a little bit more boring because there's a lot of talking. But then like once you get to that towards the end where the alien is like being shown a little bit more, then that's where like, the edge, like you're on the edge of your seat. It's, I remember, that memory kind of being a little bit of afraid because it looks so weird, like you don't see any eyes. I specifically remember the mouth within the mouth. That's always a visual that I'll remember, of the alien, like when it opens its mouth, there's like another mouth on the inside. I'll never forget that. And I remember that as a kid, that visual of like the mouth, like just shooting into, Buddy's face.
Yeah. With Alien, I've kind of gone like back and forth as far as like, do I even like this movie? Not that I don't respect it. I do. I definitely do. And I remember like being kind of scared of it when I was a kid, but it wasn't like a terrifying movie. But as an adult, I think I experienced the existential dread more than I did when I was a kid. The monster itself was scary, yes. But the impending doom that you're feeling throughout the entire film is really impressive. It's almost like Lovecraftian, like there's a certain ominous tone that as soon as they basically land on that planet, or like when they get the distress call, or when they enter that alien ship and it's just a vast cavern of like bones on the wall, and it's the most bizarre thing you've ever seen, which by the way, coolest sets ever. Like I don't know how they did that. Those are sets, like some of it is matte paintings and everything, but like there are like crazy sets that they built for this, and I'm just like, how did they even think of this? But yeah, that cosmic horror, like almost like a mental, like your mind's trying to wrap its head around something that's much bigger than you can imagine, and that's the kind of like Lovecraftian thing that Ridley Scott was trying to, I'm assuming that Ridley Scott was trying to like latch onto, because you feel so helpless watching it.
I agree. I agree. You said the respect, you're not sure if you like it, but you respect it. Like I can see the craft and acknowledge the level of difficulty and the I mean, Ridley Scott here is at the best of his craft. Like right, like at the time period with lack of CGI and everything, like he did a great job of creating. He world built, like he spent a lot of time world building before we got to see anything, and that Doom builds. So the pacing is great, like he does a really great job with that. The shots are inventive, but I don't know if I love it, but I can, but I do.
Yeah.
Like I hate the characters in Great Gatsby. I teach it every year almost. Well, I used to teach it every year. I hate read it almost, but it's meticulously crafted and I can acknowledge how well it's done.
You can understand that this is actually an amazing story or an amazing work of art while also hating the insides of it. Mm-hmm. I totally get that. And so what I was trying to say earlier is I've had this like, wow, I really love this movie. Wow, it's not actually as good, or it's overblown, or it's not actually that scary. But coming at it as a early 30s person who hasn't seen it in a long time, I appreciate it so much more because I'm just here trying to understand the artistic intent of like what is being shown to me, and I think I'm in a position where I can see that now. I can pick up what Ridley Scott is putting down, and he's putting down a lot of like just existential dread, and I love how he handled that. And you mentioned, Rich, that there are like 45 minutes before we even like get to see the face hugger, mm-hmm. And that's our first like real glimpse of the alien. Then there's the chestburster scene and the actual like xenomorph. That's actually, they never call it a xenomorph in this movie.
Do you guys have an understanding of the life cycle of this species from this movie?
I was trying to understand that personally
because the Latcher, right? You go from like we get the Latcher who presumably now like implants a seed, right? But like when the burster comes out, I would think the burster would go to latch mode, and it doesn't.
Right. I don't have a solid answer, but the way that I understand it is if the face hugger, like the latcher that you said, mm-hmm. If that latched onto, say, a primate, a gorilla, the chestburster and eventual alien would look different because it's taking our DNA. So
xenomorph. Okay, it's in the name.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we do see variations. I don't want to like spoil too much, but we do see variations of the xenomorph in future films.
Would you compare this to the? Would you compare this to the Brood almost from X-Men then? Where like I'm sorry, maybe I'm going too deep in X-Men comic book stuff, but the Brood basically were like the xenomorphs, and they when they took over the X-Men, like it looked like Wolverine but a xenomorph,
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I guess that would be the comic book comparison.
Okay,
Anthony, we haven't heard from you in a while. What's going through your mind right now?
Yeah, so I was kind of dancing around the name because they actually didn't say xenomorph in this one, but yeah, you get that.
Do they ever mention it in future films?
Yes,
they must.
Second one,
they must.
Second one,
do they?
Second movie, yeah. So yeah, no, I agree. It's also like coming into this movie, knowing that you're watching it to discuss it, also changes the lens of how you watch it too, mm-hmm. and. Yeah. So yeah, like you do notice a little bit more of like the minor details. Like you talked about the sets. The sets were very impressive. Even I was even impressed with what they were able to do with the xenomorph, and I was actually analyzing it because it has like spines out of the back, and like I kind of look at it and be like, what did they use to make that, right? I try to mm-hmm. analyze to see if I can notice any like maybe household item that they might have used, right? Like some tubing from a vacuum cleaner or whatever. But it all looks impressive. It doesn't look cheap. They really do put a lot of money into this. But kind of and we've been talking about really like what they've accomplished and a little bit of like the future stuff. But this film has a pretty like solid group of like casting. I mean, it's helmed by Sigourney Weaver, which, you know, she was 29 years old in that movie. Isn't that crazy? Like thinking that like she was 29 years old in this movie.
Yeah,
and
she
like
killed it.
she actually looks young. Like sometimes I'll like look back at old films and I'll look to see how old they were, and they'll be like, yeah, they were 25 in this movie, but they look like they were almost 40, you know. But she actually looked young, you know. I was actually surprised. It's crazy how young John Hurt looked in this movie.
Yes, yeah, because most of the John Hurt performances that I've seen have been a much older John Hurt.
Right.
But yeah, there's a number of really, really incredible actors in this movie.
I'd say Ian Holm looked maybe a little younger than he did in Fellowship. Like maybe a
lot younger.
Yeah, I know.
No, but he still looked older though. Like you could tell that he was almost
older.
You could tell like he was almost like maybe touching 50.
He was definitely middle aged.
So yeah, like I mean, you could tell he was definitely older. Like, you know, I mean, obviously he didn't look as old as Fellowship, but he was getting there. Like you could tell he was getting up there in age.
John Hurt, I mean,
John Hurt actually surprised me.
And I know him best as the voice of the dragon in Merlin. So I was like, wait, is that the Merlin guy? That was exciting. And then I don't know the actor's name. I forget the character. So it's the other dark-haired gentleman. He was in the show Big Love. He played like a very sleazy, basically like the head of the Mormons out there in Utah.
He plays the character Brett.
Yes. I don't
know his name. Yeah.
He's kind of not a great guy in this, you know, in the movie, and yeah, I could buy it. Like it's just like he's like a character actor, I think, who like just plays like kind of a not great guy all the time, and he does it well. So I was excited by the casting. I honestly, when they all were on screen, I was like, hey, I know almost all these actors, you know. So that was actually a really cool thing to see one of their earlier works.
Yeah, everyone did fantastically. Jen even commented, like, I don't understand. People don't look like this anymore. Like, you're looking at some of the cast, and so the other female, Lambert, she was specifically talking about her, and she's just like, I've never seen anyone who looks like that. And it's true, like they just look like they're from the 70s, you know. It's a really bizarre thing that I think everyone just has like iPhone faces now, where everyone's used to looking at a screen, so our faces are just a little bit different.
It's the blue light morphing us.
The blue light, yeah. Oh, I understand what I was trying to say earlier. Basically, it's the use of the actual villain takes a while. And they do that to kind of put you at a state of unease. Because if they show you their hand at the beginning, the villain is no longer scary by the end. You know? They want that build-up. They want you to emotionally feel uneasy when you're going into, you know, when you're finally seeing the facehugger, when you're finally seeing the chestburster, and then finally it's, you know, final form. And they knew their limitations. You know, like this is a guy in a rubber suit, but they didn't want it to look like Doctor Who. You know, like they wanted it to,
or Godzilla.
They wanted it to look like they didn't want it to look like Godzilla, so they kept the creature in shadows and only showed very sparse glimpses at it, just enough to freak you the heck out. And they do a pretty good job of it for a 1979 film.
Yeah, I like the utilization of darkness. It definitely works well with this type of movie. And I mean, honestly, they have a game called Alien Isolation, and it kind of uses like the similar, you know, you've got the xenomorph, you're trying to avoid it, and it's, you know, it'll pop up on you at any time, pretty much like this one. You know, you're not guns blazing, you know, like some of the later ones, but yeah, this one is this one they did well, because I mean you're right. You said that they knew their limitations and they slotted well into that, you know. And even though they did show like, you know, a full body xenomorph, it with the camera work, it didn't look corny.
No, it doesn't. And they're only showing. I love the extreme close-ups too. There's a lot of extreme close-ups on people's faces in this movie, to show either fear or just to like give you a unique glimpse at the person or character. And they do a lot of extreme close-ups of like the sleek shine of like the dome on the xenomorph's head, awesome. Or just like it's slowly opening its mouth in like strobe lighting, to like. Because strobe lighting is uneasy to look at, you know, like it's hard to, you know, see movement, and when you eliminate movement with a strobe light, that also helps heighten like the unease of everything. So
the only thing I thought, and this is probably my Spaceballs, this is my Spaceballs like background, when the chestburster comes out, the way it kind of like skitters off screen, it just reminded me of in Spaceballs when the chestburster jumps into song and dance on the diner top. So it like I giggled when I saw him skitter, because like I just in my head heard like "Hello, my baby, hello, my darling," you know, like that same exact scene from Spaceballs. So that's the only time that I felt like the xenomorph took me out of it, like just that little skittering.
You know, thinking back like to the 1970s and like kind of what they did with like horror films back then, you know, it was really hard to make like a serious one that didn't look corny, you know, and like the acting wasn't like over the top, like, you know, like, oh, you know, like it didn't look corny. Like, but this movie, they didn't show fear in a way that looked corny. It looked genuine. And so like I'll really have to like put it up to like the actors for really like acting very well and making a film that just set off this whole series that we're still getting stuff today.
Yeah. And it's kind of bigger than ever right now, because we just had a very successful Alien movie in theaters, and it was a very good one. Like I'm blown away by how well Romulus was. And I've heard very good things about the first, I think there's 4 episodes now of Alien Earth. So I'm excited to dive into that soon. And I'm hoping to start making like timeline content with, you know, I want to make individual short video content for the Alien series. Slowly working my way up to something a little bit bigger. But yeah, so you mentioned, Anthony, that you were were you specifically talking about the chestburster scene that everyone was like super, you could tell like the fear was like real? Or
not specifically the chestburster scene, but like there's that, and then the build up to when the xenomorph, this scene right here.
Yes, so behind Anthony, it's a scene where Lambert, the other female, is confronted by the xenomorph, and she's unable to get around it or do anything.
And she's crying, but like it looks genuine. Like it doesn't look fake. Like I don't know. Like I've seen some of like, you know, older horror movies that are from around the same era, and a lot of them are like really corny. But like this one, I felt like it broke through like some stereotypes when it came to horror. I mean, it was also partly a sci-fi movie, but I mean, the main element of it is horror. You know, they're building up, like you said, there's that existential dread that builds up throughout the film until you get to the climax. And yeah, man, dude, it might not be the one that most people talk about. A lot of people talk about the second one. That's the one that like you probably saw most clips of, Rich, was the second one. But I like Dakota said, you have to respect it. You have to appreciate what this film did.
Dakota, you're a timeline guy. When did Aliens come out?
Like year-wise?
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out, like, I remember seeing the toys. So, like, that's essentially why I thought this was an action franchise. Because I remember, like, the action figures of, like, Riley and, like, the xenomorphs and stuff were a big deal in toy stores when I was younger.
So, it took quite a while for a sequel to come out. It came out in 1986. This one came out in 79. So, so
maybe
8 years later.
So maybe it was
before
three. When 3 came out, I think that's when I saw that. I remember seeing the toys in stores.
That would make sense. Yeah, the 3 I think was 91.
That makes more sense. Yeah, because I would have been 9.
Okay, so I want to go back to the chestburster scene because that has a pretty iconic piece of like filming lore behind it. Basically, the cast knew something was going to happen, but they did not know what. And they understood that, like, basically they were told, all right, just eat your food, have a good time, and something's going to happen to John Hurt's character. John Hurt obviously knew what needed to happen. You know, he acted his heart out with that. It was a disgusting performance of him, like, just coughing up his food and shoving food in his face. And but everyone else had no idea that there was going to be an alien that bursts out of John Hurt's chest.
That's so cool.
Which is such an insane thing to like commit to doing.
That's amazing.
And also to put onto your cast. But they all... It was perfect, you know, like they kept in character. Because I'm trying to think, like, if I was present, obviously I would know that this is a film and that we're doing special effects. But I would be like, wait, what? Like, like, because you could see the moment there's like blood spurting out of his chest before the chest burster even pops up. You see Sigourney Weaver just like kind of like take a step back, like, what? You know, like she didn't realize that there was something underneath his, you know, underneath his shirt or whatever. So I think that that's such a cool bit of like filmmaking lore because
I like it when they do that.
It colors the whole filmmaking behind it, and like it makes it actually really scary because these are people actually terrified because they have no idea what's coming.
Yeah. I love it when they do stuff like that. When they withhold like certain pieces of information from like, you know, you're trying to get like a good scene, and I feel like that scene was perfect for nobody else to know what's going to happen except for, you know, the subject that happened, you know, John Hurt. So yeah, I remember that. That'd been a piece of information that sat in the back of my mind until you actually brought it up. I was like, oh my gosh,
I remember that,
dude. Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
yeah, I completely. Man, now I kind of want to go back and watch that scene. Like now that I remember this.
Yeah, because if you watch it now that you know that these people didn't know what was happening, you could tell like genuine surprise is like on their face. It's really cool. You know, going into Spaceballs a couple years later. When was Spaceballs? I think it was the same year or the year after Return of the Jedi, or I
think it's 83.
Okay, so the same year as Return of the Jedi, and there's the scene at the end where I think it's John Hurt in a diner. Yes, and he's just, you know, he's having a good time. They're having a laugh, and all of a sudden he's doing the same exact thing again. He's actually saying, "Not again, not again."
It's you know what? I'm so glad you said it was John Hurt, because when I see it happening, right, I'm going, man, like this is not just like kind of familiar. Like it looks like the same guy, and I just love Mel Brooks. By the way, I'll correct before our audience does. Spaceballs was actually 87.
87. Okay, very good. Thank you for checking that. What did we think of Ian Holm as the android? Like, and like his, because you can argue that he's actually the villain of the movie, because it becomes apparent that this wasn't a random stop that they made on their trip. You know, someone programmed them to go here, and he very much, you know, nurtured the aliens' growth throughout the entire film until, you know, to a point where, like, obviously, like, he was trying to keep the alien alive. Like, he was trying to, you know, bring it back to Earth. At what point, Rich, did you realize that Ian Holm was the bad guy? Or a bad guy? I'm not saying he is the bad guy, but yeah.
Well, it's funny because, so, when he breaks the protocol to, you know, let the guy come on, I think, obviously, a little problematic for me is that going into it, I knew that like the aliens are bad, right? So when I see like, oh, let's get him,
not fun aliens.
Yeah, you know, let's get him on the ship. I'm thinking like, what are you doing? Like, I forget protocol. Like, how about survival? Like, you guys don't really seem to be a cohesive team, right? They don't like seem to have real, true, like, love and care for each other. So
No.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like, scientifically, like, as a, why would you do that? So I didn't figure it out. I didn't get it until Sigourney Weaver gets it, that he's bad, right? And then the what I'll call is the milk teardrop, right, is like forming. And I'm looking at him going, that's a really weird effect. I'm like, why is it white? And I thought that it just was me. Like, it's such an amazing scene because I ignored it away until like he splits open. And I think like my dog had come into the room or something. So I'm like, wait, what? And I had to like rewind, and I was like, what? He's a robot? That blew my mind. I won't lie. Like, I had no idea, didn't see it coming at all. And then I was like, oh, so that's why he's the worst. That's why he's so cold and calculating.
And like, there's just something nasty about like that milky substance that was like pulling out. Like, I feel like if it was like oily, like if it was black, it would have been like whatever. But like that white substance just made it look worse.
Yeah, there's something inherently, I think, kind of off-putting about that. And I was thinking about it. I was like, if he's a robot, why isn't it oil or grease? Why isn't it dark? And now that you say that, I think I would have been like, it would have been a clue that I would have picked up on too quickly. But because it was that milky, substance, you're like, what is that? And that's enough to hold you off for a couple more minutes. Like, that's brilliant to me. That was brilliant.
His hair gel's dripping.
Oh no, he accidentally booked a speech at the wrong place, and now his oh man. But yeah, it was really very well done. Kudos to, like, I didn't see it coming. And then when you go back, I think the best types of surprises, the foreshadowing was right there, but you miss it, and it was so good.
Did you get an opportunity to watch this a second time, or it was just the one time?
No, I watched it twice.
Okay. The second time, did you see all of the instances where he was purposely,
yes,
like, instead of keeping them outside for quarantine, he's just like, nope, inside.
Yeah. It was like, oh my, like it was that. It feels rewarding almost to watch it and see it again and see how well it's done.
And you could see, like, like on that second watch, like every instance that he was like going against the grain of the crew, at that point you're like, like, why, like what's this guy like, why does he care, and then you see that he got those orders from the company.
He kept saying, we haven't finished collating, and I'm just like, yeah, that's a very normal thing for a person to say.
Right? Like nobody on that ship would say anything like that but him. But no, he and it is, I think it was such a smart move, because you go into the movie, and I'm pretty sure like this was Rich, you go into the movie knowing that there's going to be this alien creature, right? And there, but you're not expecting there to be like a secondary antagonist, right?
Did not see that coming.
Like he pretty much, and Dakota's right in a way. Like, you could say that he is the villain of the story because he made it so this creature was able to fully form and almost kill everybody.
So, Rich, you mentioned earlier that nobody had any love for each other, and that's on purpose. These are just people doing a job. They're tasked to ship ore from one planet to another. They're going back to Earth at this point. But the actual ship name Nostromo has some actual meaning. And when you take that into consideration, the whole plot makes a lot more sense. So the Nostromo is named after, there's a book by Joseph Conrad from like the early 19th century. Or, sorry, the early 20th century. It was early 1900s. Where it's the name of the ship, and that ship in that book, or in that book, it basically signifies it's a story of exploitation of labor force, and that's exactly what the company, because they don't really call it Weyland-Yutani in this movie, they just call it the company. They are exploiting the labor force for whatever reason so that they can gain access to the secrets of this alien. So that's why Ridley Scott named their ship the Nostromo, because it puts the emphasis on corporate capitalist greed, and each of the crew members has moments of thinking for themselves, not necessarily in the movie, in like the original drafts of this movie and the novelization, which fleshes out the characters quite a bit more. You see a lot of the selfishness of each of the cast. You see a little bit of it when Parker's like, we should get a bonus. We need a full share, but there's a lot more of that in the novel or the novelization of it from pretty much everyone. I think Ripley isn't really included in that. She's the only one just trying to do her job. But I just think that's kind of like a cool little background detail is the Nostromo is named after a Joseph Conrad book from like the early 1900s, and it means corporate greed, basically. And that's what we see happening throughout this whole movie. This whole adventure is stemmed by corporate greed.
That's a really like nice Easter egg there that I didn't pick up on, but you've got me searching it now, and I'm just I'm gonna have to go read some more Joseph Conrad. I mean, I thought Heart of Darkness was it, but I think I'm gonna have to dive in here.
Heart of Darkness is not where Joseph Conrad ends, my friend. I love this movie. I think coming back to it now with fresh eyes and just eager to experience the whole series instead of just bite-sized portions of it, because each of the films is fairly separate in tone and story, because you have the original 4 with Sigourney Weaver in it, but then there's 2 prequels that don't have Sigourney Weaver in it at all, and they're more, I don't even know how to describe it. It's more like an explanation of like the origins of faith and the universe and everything. And it's like, have you seen Prometheus, Anthony?
Long time ago. Yeah, I mean,
I'm excited to get to that one because I think a lot of people wrote it off as being like trying way too hard, but I think it's probably the smartest film in the series. I think it's really good. We're coming up on an hour. We can keep going for a little bit more.
Yeah, we can we can go back to the good old days. Hit a 2-hour podcast, 2.5.
So another thing that I thought was interesting is the film is very vague on a bunch of stuff, and it's purposely vague on a bunch of stuff. We mentioned they didn't give a name to the alien species in this movie. That's something that comes later in the series. They didn't even give Ripley, they didn't give Sigourney Weaver a first name in this movie. She's just Ripley. Everyone in this movie only has a last name. Kane, Parker, Lambert, Brett, Dallas, Ripley. They all have only a last name and a designation on the ship. So it's basically like everything is stripped down to its base, like the base stuff that you need to know, basically. What they do on this ship, why they're here, and what they're going to call each other. So I think that's pretty cool. We don't learn that her name is Ellen Ripley until later, but yeah, and the same with the company. They don't name the company by verbiage in this movie. It's on like some background Easter, like there's some Easter eggs of like the name of the company, Wayland Yutani, in the background. But yeah, so there's a lot of it. You don't even know what time period this film takes place in. It doesn't give you a date. You only learn like when this movie takes place in future movies because they can backdate it. It's the whole idea of give them as little as possible, but just enough so that they understand their setting, basically. And it's meant to disorient you. And I think they did a good job, because I haven't been right ever since I watched this. I've been disoriented.
Because it's like I need to continue so that I can get on the timeline. We know that you're timeline obsessed, and so this movie, with the lack of its time, is just throwing you through a loop, man.
It really, yeah. No, but it's I think it's an easy-ish timeline once they start like actually giving you dates. It's just no dates in this one. But guys, I think we shall call it here. Let's give some last thoughts on Alien and get all riled up for Aliens plural
Rileyed
next
up?
week.
Rileyed up?
Ripleyed up.
Oh, Ripleyed up. Sorry.
That's okay. Rich, what are your final thoughts on this first Alien film?
So, I think I went in with expectations of Alien 3 and got a very different experience. As usual, my first watch, I was like, this is a horror movie. The end of the movie is what I really liked as it started to ramp up. Probably from chest bursting on, like I was invested. I'm really excited to explore the rest of the franchise. And if this is a building block that I needed to digest in order to enjoy the franchise as it evolves, then I'm happy I engaged in it. If this was a standalone movie, just this, and nothing else was after it, I'd say it was good. It was really well done. I can acknowledge the craft, but it's not my type of movie. So I'm a little... Like, I know about the Alien versus Predator movies, and, like, man, I love Predator. like that guy. So I was expecting kind of, like, Predator-ish stuff with Sigourney Weaver, and that's not what I got here. But that's my own fault. So definitely recommended to watch something that was exceptionally well done in a time with limited resources.
Before I hand it over to Anthony, I like what you said there. Specifically, this is a building block to what comes next. I think you need this movie to feel any sort of weight for the character of Ripley, and a fear of the alien, So keep that moving forward, because it is an important film, not just for like film history, but in this franchise, like it is a new hope for this series. Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, man. It'd been a long time since I had seen this movie. I would say that I've seen Aliens more than I've seen the original Alien, but I have seen the first two more than I've seen 3 and 4. So it was nice to go back to this. I always like it when we pick something that kind of has me go back to it, because I don't know if I would have gone back to this movie anytime soon. Not because I hate it, just because... just like I really, it hasn't been on my radar, to watch the first Alien movie. But I'm glad that we did. And I really do feel like coming into this, I did notice a bit more, and I did feel a lot more of an appreciation for it, for the time period that it came out and for what they were able to accomplish. And yeah, the fact that this is one of the foundations for what we have today.
Yeah, I really like this movie. I'm happy that we, like Anthony said, revisited it, because I'm able to appreciate it with new eyes and a new perspective on art and everything and filmmaking. So that's awesome, and I'm excited to jump into future films in this franchise next week.
Yes, next week, Aliens.
Sounds good.
Episode 132, Aliens, with an S at the end. Guys, thank you so much for listening to us here for our 131st episode of Project Geekology. We appreciate all the screams that we couldn't hear, but we know it was scary at times listening to 3 white men. But I'm going to end this now. I'm just going to ramble. Guys, if you want to check out any of our socials, be sure to click into our show notes down below and, click something. You'll find something new. Have a good one.
Oh, yeah, and don't forget to give us... Dakota, it's your turn. There's something that we require of our listeners. Not require, but we ask of.
We ask with a flamethrower to the back of you. So there's something that we usually like receiving here on this podcast, a favor of sorts. It's kind of like it's a 5-star juicy review. Specifically, sorry, Rich.
I didn't know where the favor was going. I was like, whoa!
Yeah. It's just a review. 5 stars. Make it juicy like Ian Holm's like milky innards.
Yeah, I was thinking that same exact thing. Or
perfect.
Crunchy.
Or crunchy, like the shell of the alien and the chestburster, like the exoskeleton, everything. It's one of those movies. You get a little juice, you get a little crunch. Give us a 5-star review, people. That's what we're trying to beg for you at this point. Guys, have a good one.
Goodbye, y'all.